Sorry. Good morning once again. Um, Today we are going to continue with what we have started, and that is Unit 5, which is about identifying and evaluating the challenges of assessment implementation. All right. And yesterday, what did we cover? We covered, excuse me, what did we cover? Okay, we went over that. Okay, we went through the assessment plan, like what is it about? And then we started looking at the six steps of implementing assessment plans. And then they said in relation to the Namibian context. It's not yesterday that we had class. When did we have class? The day before yesterday. We covered number 1 and step 2. Yes, number 1 and 2. But we didn't go further because I had to attend a meeting. And today we are going to start with number 3. Did we talk about... Oh, wait. Is that number 3? Hold on. What did I do? Oh, yeah. No, that's number 2. That's still number 2. Okay, number 3. Did we cover step 3? I don't even remember. Do you remember? No. Awesome. So we are starting with number 3, which is about establishing methodologies to assess achievement of outcomes. When it comes to now establishing the methods that we need to use to assess, most of these assessment, the strategies have been predetermined by the institutes such as NIAD, all right? And within the NIAD community, there are curriculum subject committees that design the subject policies, and for the people who now have suggested on the policies, in some ways they have suggested different methodologies and assessment strategies that the teachers can use. And you should also remember that you can consult the advisory teachers and inspectors of schools to help you with deciding or work on your teaching methodologies, and assist you also in how to attain the objectives and learning outcomes in the best way. All right, so you're not always on your own. We are moving on. So we've spoken about that. That step does not have so much information. So that's all that you have. And we are moving on to number 4. Number 4 is about gathering and analyzing evidence by implementing the methodologies. So methods, when we are talking about methods and measure, methods mean the type of data that will be collected, and measure, they mean by the actual instruments that you are using to collect the data. Both the methods and the measures are very important in determining they are very important in making the assessment plan, all right? Because obviously you want to know what instruments are you going to use and what kind of data are you going to use, all right? And in preparing assessment plans, the data collection process needs to be determined. You have to decide how are you going to collect the data, all right? So it has to be determined. You have to decide on which process are you going to use when you're collecting your data. It involves selecting methods and measures to assess each objective. Some objectives are more important than others, so you need to select the most important objectives to measure, and making that decision is very important, all right? When it comes to now deciding on what measure to use, like measure as an instrument to use to collect the data, remember that there is no one perfect measure. All right, there's no one perfect instrument that you can use to collect ample data. All right, so the best thing that you can do is use multiple methods and measure for you to have a better picture of the data that you get. All right, a better picture of what, the information on what the learners can do. So when you're talking about data, is more the data that you collect is information on how the learners are learning and how best the learners are learning. All right, and then we are moving on. So there are two types of methods that you can use to collect the data, the type of data that you get. So the direct method of assessment involves learners displaying of knowledge and skills, all right? And like it's really direct. It's like in your face, you can see it, right? Learning is evaluated through their performance, okay? And direct measures are sometimes time consuming to collect and evaluate, which is really true. So things like presentation, experiment, those really are time consuming, all right? Or doing research, it's time consuming. And direct methods can be more closely tied to the identified learning objectives. And so here are some of the examples that they say. It's a direct method to collect data: comprehensive examination, course, embedded assignments such as test, assignment, paper, presentation, essay, test, oral exam, and portfolios. And then the indirect method, gather data not based on directly on academic or work performance, but rather is assess perception of learning, such as self-report on learning progress, how they feel about what they know or the experience that they get from your classroom. And indirect assessment are less objective, but easier to collect and provide important information about how the program is meeting the needs of the learners and employers. Methods of indirect assessment are alumni surveys, employer surveys, and script analysis. All right, so basically, objective here, I guess we are talking about, because the other one, the direct one, is so much related to the knowledge and the skills that have been stipulated, let's say, in the syllabus, all right, regarding the content that is presented. But then when it comes to the indirect method, I guess this is really talking about the opinion that people, the learners, let's say the learners have regarding their experiences of learning. I guess somebody was trying, was it Loimi? Somebody was trying to say something. Go ahead. Do you have a question? If you're ready, please raise your hand and then I will give you a chance to say whatever that you want to say. And we are moving on to number 5, step 5, which is, what is it? Engage in the assessment process. Specify procedures of analyzing and interpreting the evidence gathered in assessment. All right, we have talked about data and we have talked about evidence. What do you think those are, by the way? Evidence and data, because we keep referring to those two. What are they? And if you want to say something, you're welcome to say something. And trying is best. It doesn't matter if your answer is correct or wrong. Trying is always good. And you never know. Maybe your answer is correct. All right, any answers? Collection information as proof. Yes. But what information are we talking about? The term, okay, thank you, Shafelao. When we're talking about information, collecting data, collecting evidence, what do we mean by that in this unit? Okay, thank you, Shafelao. And if you have a mic, you can always raise your hand and then say something instead of just basically typing, because typing takes a little bit of time. All right. Yeah. So, I mean, you are on the right track in a sense that when we're talking about data, like when you're collecting data, the instrument that you use to collect data. So let's say if you have a test, you are seeing proof of what the learners know and what they can do. Do you understand? And sometimes that comes in a form of the mark, like how much did they get? And then that shows how much do they know, okay, supposedly of what they know about what you have taught them and what they can do. All right, so that's what we mean by data and evidence, you know, and information that you get when you are collecting the data. So that's what we mean. All right, just so you get what I'm talking about. And where were we? Determine beforehand what form of the data will be analyzed. So because sometimes we collect a number of data, like let's say you gave the learners a test, you gave them the presentation, you gave them a number of assessments. Okay, you gave them a number of assessment. Now you have to decide from all those multiple assessments that you have given them, which information are you gonna use to analyze and then make whatever decision that you have to make. All right, so you have to decide that beforehand, and then pay particular attention to maintain anonymity to personal identifiers in data. So that is to say that you don't have to display the learners' names, okay, because learners in high school, they don't have student numbers, do they? So okay, date of birth or whatever ID number, like you don't have to display those. Make it public to whoever that you're going to display that information to. I mean, if let's say you are sharing data, I mean, you're sharing the marks of the learners, I mean, it might be a good idea because, for example, at UNAM, what do they do? At UNAM, when the lecturers are displaying your information, right? They don't display your name as well. Sometimes they use the student number, and hopefully the student number is personal to you. Nobody else know that it's you. Do you understand? And in teaching, I mean at high school teaching, maybe display the information individually or give them, I don't know, like give them private names. I don't know, like you can give them alphabets, and then when you display it, when you display their marks, then when you display their marks, then they wouldn't know exactly who got what. My Oshindonga teacher used to paste our test marks at the window in high school with our full names on. And it's not always good. I mean, like, it's really, really not good. All right. Because not everybody does very well within, and you don't want to embarrass or, break down the confidence of your learners. So avoid displaying their names. All right. And especially when you are making it public to a larger audience, because sometimes what do we do? At times, you even find on social media teachers using the students' information, I mean, whatever that they have written, and there is their name. Do you understand? There is a school name, there is a grade, and all that is not really, it's not good. Like, it's not professional. So you should maintain anonymity of your of personal information. And then prior to scoring assessment, determine any performance expectation. So what kind of performance do you expect? Like, this also comes in with the standards that you have to set beforehand. When using multiple assessment instruments, review results of parts that directly address your program goals and educational objectives. All right. And that is now to say, focus on the data that deals with, let's say, objectives, objectives, and then the program goals. Like the program here, we mean the school goals, and then, educational objectives as well that have been set by the, let's say, by the ministry, or even the ones that you have set within your school. And then ask the following questions, such as, is there a relationship between the findings? So findings here, we mean the results that you got from your students' performance. And then, are there any consistent, inconsistent, or at opposite ends of the spectrum? For example, if you have given multiple assessment, right? And then let's say you gave them a test, pen and paper test, you gave them an experiment, and then you gave them a research, and then you gave them whatever other assessment that you give them. Like within their performance, is there consistency in terms of how they perform, let's say, in a pen and paper, and how they perform in the experiment, how they perform in the presentation? Is there consistency in terms of, let's say, the people who have performed high, they tend to perform, they probably tend to perform high in all the assessment. And then maybe those who tend to perform very poorly, then they might be in the range of the people who have performed poorly. All right, so that could be an example of, finding the consistency in their performance when it comes to a spectrum that you are measuring, like that you have. All right, and then use data to pinpoint areas where objectives were achieved and where you need to improve. Okay, because as we have discussed in earlier units, we say that, or sections rather, we say that the information that you get, it should be done, it should be used for a purpose. And that could mean you seeing, have the learners achieved the objectives that you say that you're going to cover, or that you have covered within your lessons? Yes or no? If not, why not? And then you can also use that information to decide on which maybe teaching methods do you need to work on, which unit do you maybe need to repeat on. You understand? So that's what we mean by this last point. Moving on, identify the means by which information that results from the assessment can be used, either like for decision making, strategy planning, program evaluation, and program improvement. So that's very self-explanatory, right? Like, and it's also in some ways related to the point that I just covered earlier. All right, so information, you use it to either make decisions on who passes and who fails, who needs to repeat the grade or repeat the subject. But then in high school, it isn't so much of like you need to repeat the subject, but you either pass or fail the grade, right? Who needs to have remedial classes? Do you understand? That's what we mean by decision making. And strategic planning, this is everything to do with how are you teaching? Do maybe, let's say, when it comes to, let's say, teaching mathematics, how are the students performing? Maybe they are performing so poorly. Does this have everything to do with the learners, or does it have everything to do with the teacher who's teaching math, for example? Does he need training? Do you understand? And then program evaluation and program improvement, like what do you need to work on? Is the program in standard? Is it really according to the goals that have been set by the ministry? How are the, what do you say? Yeah, how are the learners really performing? Is it really a good program? If not, how then do you improve the program? All right. And then important questions that you can ask: how will the data be used to help the program planning and improvement? That I have already covered there, so I think you can think about answers to that. Will your program form a committee to review assessment findings and make recommendation for change or improvement? All right, so that's what we, what will you use the information for? Like, what will you use the data? And who is going to look at this data? All right, do you need to decide a number of people who can help out with reviewing the data? And then these people can also make some suggestions of what changes need to be done, or what improvement needs to be done. All right, you can choose a number of people, because sometimes when you are at a school and then you decide that everybody should partake in, let's say, reviewing the data. Not everybody always does that. Sometimes it's always good to have committees and then assign specific part of whatever review that they are doing that they need to work on. All right. And what is that about? Hold on, let me see, because I can't see. Oh, stop there. Okay, that makes sense. No, we are not stopping there. No, because we have 8 more minutes. No, not 8, but oh my gosh, my math. 13 more minutes to go. All right. Now we are moving on to the next. Oh, okay. Now we are going to look at the 6th step. Okay. Yes, Hendrina.
Doctor, before we move on to part 2, would you mind to give us a summary of what part 1 entails? Like, just a quick summary of
Okay.
it.
The quick. We are
It's
not. We are.
like you were too fast. You couldn't manage to catch up.
Oh, really? In which step, or is it everything?
Like, just give us just a quick summary,
Okay.
like with few words. Yeah.
I didn't change the slides because I thought in the previous class we would have gone until this part, but unfortunately we didn't. All right. And what we have been talking about is basically the 6 components that you need to think about, that you need to consider when you are creating an assessment plan. All right. Assessment plan, it's how you're going to carry out your assessments. And when you are creating an assessment, there are 6 components. There are six steps basically that you need to do, that you need to carry out, that you need to follow. The first one that we have spoken about is create the vision and mission statement. The vision and mission statements, most like the ones that all schools look at, which is the same, is the one that comes from the Ministry of Education, as well as the DNEA, like the Directory of Examination, something. All right, I don't remember. I can remember it from the top of my head. I told you about my brain. I thought I was young. And then the next one is establish program and course learning objectives and outcomes. So here, most of the learning objectives and outcomes, in schools, they are predetermined already. I mean, they are stated in the course learning objectives and outcomes. These ones are basically predetermined, and then we find them in the syllabus. But then let's say the objective of your program, I think this one program, we mean the school. The school can also come up with its own objective. I mean, its mission, basically. but I know that one comes here. The school itself can also come up with its own specific vision and mission. All right. But then that vision and mission should be related to the ones that have been provided already by the Ministry of Education. And here the learning objectives and outcomes, they are provided in the syllabus, but then you have to, pick the ones that you are going to assess. All right. And then establish methodologies to assess achievements of outcomes. So here we were talking about measures and methods, right? Which instruments, for examples, are you going to use when it comes to assessing? And then they say that they suggested that you use multiple instruments, all right? Instruments here, we're talking about the test, portfolio, examination, whatever, all right? And then you have to use a number of them because they say that there is no one perfect instrument that you can use within your assessment plan. All right, there's no one perfect one. So for you to get a better picture of what the learners can do and what they know, what skills they have acquired, and objectives that they have been attained in your teaching, you need to use multiple instruments, right? And also for you to get different type of data. And then they've mentioned about the direct method and the indirect method of the data that you get. So there's one that is very objective and straightforward, but it takes time, is the one that is direct, the one that is related to the learning objective that is that are stated in the syllabus. And then we have got the indirect ones, which are more of the opinions on what the learners think regarding their experiences that they get from your teaching. Is it loud? Okay. All right, we'll continue. What else? Yeah, their experience, their opinion. What did they think about the lessons? What did they think about the tests, for example? Do you understand? And then number 4, here you gather and analyze evidence by implementing the methodologies. So you collect the data. So here we talked about the collection of the data and how you're going to analyze it. And then here we also spoke about keeping the anonymity of the learners. Don't display their names and information. And then the 4th one, share the results of the analysis. So you got the information on the learning progress of your learners, then use that information for a specific purpose. That could be either for improvement, your teaching methodologies, it could be for making decisions, it could be also for making improvement of the program, all right, program or subject to be more specific, or just how the school system is ran, all right? So that's what we mean. So that's what we have here, just in brief, in short terms. Was that helpful? Who asked the question? So did you get the idea of what we have just covered?
Yes, Doctor, I got an idea.
All right.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. All right, we are moving on now to the 6th step. The 6th step we didn't talk about, which I think that's where we are going to stop. Make evidence-based improvement as needed. So the success of an assessment plan rests on whether or not it provides you with information needed to make informed decision about your subject or program's future. And assessment findings must be usable and used for plotting the future of your curriculum and subject. All right, so this is what you have to think about. It's like it should be used to make some sort of changes. All right, and then the following must be kept in mind when writing the progress report. Okay, and number 1, so the first thing that you have to keep in mind is connecting decisions to results. So you are deciding So with these results that I have gotten here of the learners, what decision making can I do? That's redundant. But what decision can I make? All right. So can I use these results to promote the learners? Is it really good enough to promote or keep the learner from progressing to the next grade? Can I use this result to really determine how we are performing as a subject within our department, for instance? Is this result sufficient enough for us to decide on shuffling and changing or transforming rather the plan or the way that we have been operating in the school? Do you understand? And then, okay, so that you have to make that information, that you have to make that connection, and that connection should be in the progress report, because after whatever assessment that you have done, eventually at the end here, what they are suggesting is for you to write the progress report. And then number 2, communicate the results. Don't just keep the results to yourself, but communicate that result with the appropriate stakeholders. And then number 3, draw conclusion and use drawing conclusions and then using the results. So what decision are you going to do or are you going to make with the results that you have gotten? So you make a conclusion and then you use it for the purpose that you have already predetermined from the very beginning of the assessment plan. And then number 4, all staff members must engage in the collecting of assessment results. So, I mean, all teachers, that's your responsibility. You should be partaking in assessment and then partaking in assessment and then collecting information and then use it for the decision, whatever decision the school have decided or the department or the subject head has decided to use that result for. Okay. My God. All right. I don't think I'm gonna go through this because there are 4 steps, right? And I think we have got more information regarding this, even though I have already explained them. Going through them, we don't have enough time because it's already 12:23 and we should end at 12:25. All right, I think I'll say that we'll stop here and then I'll make a decision whether I should go through all these points while I have already explained them here. All right, so that's where we're going to end our class today. Thank you so much for coming, and I will see you tomorrow. Is Friday, yay! I'll see you Friday. Okay, thank you so much for coming and have a lovely day. Oh wait, before we do that, do you have questions of what I've just presented? Sorry. As a teacher, you should always ask if there are questions. Yes, Hendrina.
Doctor, I don't have a question regarding to what we have learned today, but I have a question. It's like a general question. I would like to know when are we going to have our test.
When are you going to have? As soon as we finish Unit 6.
6, right?
Okay,
thank you, Doctor.
We are covering Unit 5 now. And how much time do we have? Ooh, okay. And I think we are gonna need.
So
the
test.
Go ahead.
So the test will cover from Unit 1 up until Unit 6, right?
No, the next test is going to cover Unit 3 to Unit 4 to 6.
Oh, this is the module that you wrote the first test already, right?
Yes.
Now I'm confusing this one. This assessment, I thought it's What do you look at this in this? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, doctor.
All right. Any other questions? Thank you for your question, Hendrina.
Uh,
Yes, Thomas?
um, I do have a question, Mas, but it's not it's not based on what you have discussed because some of them joined the class late, like half of the class because it's crashing with one of our class of an overview of English literature, just for some of us.
Oh, are you repeating that other module?
No, we aren't repeating it.
But then we are still clashing.
It's our
You are
fourth
still
year
clashing.
module.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Which fourth year module is that? Which module
An
is that,
overview
Thomas?
of African literature.
Oh.
An
I think
overview of African literature.
with Dr. Mlombo.
It's not a third year module.
Okay, with Dr.
Yes.
Mlombo. Okay.
Nelson Malambo.
Okay. Yeah, somebody, Barbara, I think, is the one who told me about it. I'm going to figure out how to solve that. All right. I am going to talk to my HOD, and I'm also going to talk to. Who am I going to talk to again? Whoever is involved in the timetabling committee to help me out with that, resolving
Okay,
that.
thank you.
Yes. HOD and timetable committee members. All right. Okay. All right. That's all, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for coming to class. I will see you tomorrow. And tomorrow our class is at what time?
1:30.
1:30. I always forget. 1:30. I'll see you at 1:30 tomorrow. Anything else? All right. If not, I will exit. And if you have other questions or queries, you can always email me or message me on Moodle. All right. Take care.